You Forever by Tuesday Love Sang Rampa. Read to you by BlueFriend. Lesson 4. As we saw in the preceding lesson, the body is surrounded by the etheric, which encompasses every part of that body. But extending outside the etheric is the aura. This is in some ways similar to the etheric in that it is of magnetic electric origin, but there the similarity ends. One can state that the aura shows the colors of the overself. It shows whether a person is spiritual or carnal. It shows also if a person is in good health or poor health, or is actually diseased. Everything is reflected in the aura. It is the indicator of the overself, or, if you prefer, of the soul. The overself and the soul, of course, are the same thing. In this aura, we can see sickness and health, dejection and success, love and hatred. It is perhaps fortunate that not so many people can see the auras at the present time, for nowadays it seems to be the common thing to take advantage of one, to seek the upper hand, and the aura betrays every thought, as it should do, reflecting as it does the colors and the vibrations of the overself. It is a fact that when a person is desperately ill, the aura begins to fade, and in certain cases the aura actually fades out before a person dies. If a person has had a long illness, then the aura does actually fade out before death, leaving only the etheric. On the other hand, a person who is killed accidentally while in good health possesses the aura up to, and for some moments after, clinical death. It might be well here to interpose certain remarks about death, because death is not like switching off a current or emptying a bucket. Death is a rather long drawn-out affair. No matter how a person dies, no matter if a person is beheaded even, death does not take place for some moments after. The brain, as we have seen, is a storage cell generating electric current. The blood supplies the chemicals, the moisture and the metallic ores, and inevitably those ingredients become stored in the tissue of the brain. Thus, the brain can continue to function for from 3 to 5 minutes after clinical death. It is said by some people that this or that form of execution is instantaneous, but that, of course, is ridiculous. As we have stated, even if the head be completely severed from the body, the brain can still function for from 3 to 5 minutes. There is a case which was actually witnessed and carefully chronicled in the days of the French Revolution. A so-called traitor had been beheaded, and the executioner reached down and lifted up the head by the hair, saying, as he did so, "This is the head of a traitor." People in the audience — executions in those days were public and also a public holiday — people in the audience were alarmed when the lips formed the soundless words, "That is a lie." That can actually be seen in the records of the French government. Any doctor or surgeon will tell you that if the blood supply be interrupted, the brain becomes impaired after 3 minutes. That is why, if a heart stops, there are such frantic efforts to start the flow of the blood again. We have digressed here to show that death is not instantaneous, nor is the fading of the aura. It is medical fact, by the way, known to coroners and pathologists, that the body dies at various rates. The brain dies, and then organs die one by one. About the last to die are the hair and nails. As the body does not die instantly, traces of the aura may linger on. Thus it is that a person who is clairvoyant can see in the aura of a dead person why that person expired. The etheric is of a different nature from the aura, and the etheric may continue for some time as a detached phantom, especially if a person has died violently, suddenly. A person in good health who meets a violent end has his batteries fully charged, and so the etheric is at a full strength. With the death of the body, the etheric becomes detached and floats away. By magnetic attraction, it will undoubtedly visit its former haunts, and if a clairvoyant person is about, or a person who is highly excited, for instance, has his vibrations increased, then that person will be able to see the etheric and will exclaim, "Oh, the ghost of so-and-so." The aura is of a much finer material than the comparatively crude etheric. The aura, in fact, is as much finer to the etheric as the etheric is to the physical body. The etheric flows over the body like a complete covering, following the contours of the body, but the aura extends to form an egg-shaped shell around the body. It might be, for instance, 7 feet or more in height, and about 4 feet in width at its broadest part. It tapers down so that the narrow end of the egg shape is at the bottom, that is, where the feet are. The aura consists of the radiations in brilliant color from the various centers of the body to other centers of the body. The old Chinese used to say that one picture is worth 1,000 words. So to save a few thousand words, we will insert here in this lesson a sketch of a person standing full face and side view, and on these sketches we will indicate the lines of force of the aura to and from various centers and the general outline of the egg shape. We must make it clear also that the aura really does exist, even if you cannot see it for the moment. As you will appreciate, you cannot see the air which you breathe, and we doubt if a fish can see the water in which it swims. The aura, then, is a real, vital force. It exists, even though most untrained people cannot see it. It is possible to see an aura by using various equipment. There are, for example, various types of goggles which can be used over the eyes, but all the information which we have been able to gather on the subject indicates that these goggles are extremely injurious to the sight. They try the eyes, they force the eyes to act in an unnatural manner, and we cannot recommend for one moment goggles purporting to enable one to see the aura, nor those various screens consisting of 2 sheets of glass with a watertight space between, which one fills with a special and usually highly expensive dye. We can only suggest that you practice, and then with a little faith and a little help, you should be able to see it. The biggest difficulty in seeing the aura is that most people do not believe that they can see it. The aura, as we have stated, is of various colors, but we would point out that what we refer to as colors is merely a special part of the spectrum. In other words, Although we use the word color, we could just as well quote the frequency of that wave, which we call red or blue. Red, by the way, is one of the easiest colors to see. Blue is not so easy. There are some people who cannot see blue. There are others who cannot see red. If you are in the presence of a person who can see the aura, by the way, be careful not to say something which is untrue, because if you do tell an untruth, the aura seer will betray you. Normally, a person has a halo, which is either bluish or a yellowish color. If a lie is told, then a greenish yellow shoots through the halo. It is a difficult color to explain, but once seen, the color is never forgotten. So, to tell a lie is to betray oneself immediately by the greenish-yellow flare which shoots through the halo which is at the top of the aura. One can say that the aura extends basically up to the eyes, and then you get a radiant layer of yellow or blue, which is the halo or nimbus. Then, at the very top part of the aura, you get a sort of fountain of light, which in the East is known as the flowering lotus, because it does actually look like that. It is an interchange of colors, and to the imaginative, it reminds one irresistibly of the opening of the 7-petaled lotus. The greater one's spirituality, the more saffron yellow is the nimbus or halo. If a person has dubious thoughts, then that particular portion of the aura turns an unpleasant muddy brown, fringed by this bile-colored yellowish green, which betokens falsehoods. We are of the belief that more people see auras than seems apparent. We believe that many people see or sense the aura and do not know what they are seeing. It is quite a common thing for a person to say that she must have this or that color. She cannot wear such and such a color, because instinctively she thinks that it would clash with her aura. You may have noticed a person who wears clothing which is quite utterly impossible according to your own estimation. You may not see the aura, but you, being possibly more perceptive than your unsuitably clad friend, will know that such colors clash completely with her aura. Many people, then, sense, experience, or are aware of the human aura, but because from early childhood they have been taught that it is nonsense to see this or nonsense to see that, they have hypnotized themselves into believing that they could not possibly see such a thing. It is also a fact that one can influence one's health by wearing clothing of certain colors. If you wear a color which clashes with your aura, then you will undoubtedly be ill at ease or self-conscious. You may even be indisposed until you take that unsuitable color off. You may find that a particular color in a room irritates you or soothes you. Colors, after all, are merely different names for vibrations. Red is one vibration, green is another vibration, and black is yet another. Just as the vibration, which we call sound, can clash and make disharmony, so can soundless vibrations, which we call colors, clash and make a spiritual disharmony. End of Lesson 4. You Forever by T. Lobsang Rampa. Read to you by BlueFriend. Lesson 5. The Colors of the Aura. Every musical note is a combination of harmonic vibration. which depends upon being compatible with its neighbors. Any lack of compatibility causes a sour note, a note which is not pleasant to hear. Musicians strive to produce only notes which please. As in music, so in colors, for colors also are vibrations, although they are on a slightly different part of the human perception spectrum. One can have pure colors, colors which please and uplift, or one can have colors which jar, which jangle the nerves. In the human aura, there are many, many different colors and shades of colors. Some of them are beyond the range of vision of the untrained observer, and so for those colors we have no universally accepted name. There is, as you know, a silent dog whistle. That is, it resonates on a band of vibrations which human ears cannot hear, but which a dog can. At the other end of the scale, a human can hear deeper sounds than a dog can. Low sounds are inaudible to dogs. Suppose we move the range of human hearing up, then we should hear as a dog does, and would hear the high notes of the dog whistle. So, if we can raise or shift our sight range up, we shall be able to then lose the ability to see black or deep purple. It would be unreasonable to list innumerable colors. Let us deal with only the most common, the strongest colors. The basic colors change according to the progress of the person in whose aura they are seen. As the person improves in spirituality, so the color improves. If a person is unfortunate enough to slip back on the ladder of progress, then his basic colors may alter completely or change in shade. The basic colors, which we mentioned below, show the basic person. The innumerable pastel shades indicate the thoughts and intentions, as well as the degree of spirituality. The aura swirls and flows like a particularly intricate rainbow. Colors race around the body in increasing spirals, and also pour down from the head to the feet. But these colors are many more than ever appeared in a rainbow. A rainbow is merely refraction from water crystals, simple things. The aura is life itself. Here are some notes on a very few colors. Very few, because there is no point in dealing with others until you can see these ones listed. Red. In its good form, red indicates sound driving force. Good generals and leaders of men have a lot of clear red in their aura. A particularly clear form of red, with clear yellow edges, indicates a person who is a crusader, one who is always striving to help others. Do not confuse this with the ordinary meddler. His red would be brown. Clear red bands or flashes emanating from the site of an organ indicates that the organ is in very good health. Some of the world's leaders have a lot of clear red in their makeup. Unfortunately, in too many instances, it is contaminated with debasing shades. A bad red, one that is muddy or too dark, indicates bad or vicious temper. The person is unreliable, quarrelsome, treacherous, a self-seeker at the expense of others. Dull reds invariably show nervous excitation. A person with bad red may be physically strong. Unfortunately, he will also be strong at wrongdoing. Murderers always have degraded red in their auras. The lighter the red, lighter, not clearer, the more nervous and unstable the person. Such a person is very active, jittery even, and cannot keep still for more than a few seconds at a time. Of course, such a person is very self-centered indeed. Reds around the organs indicate their state. A dull red, brownish red even, slowly pulsing over the site of an organ, indicates cancer. One can tell if the cancer is there or if it is incipient. The aura indicates what illnesses are going to afflict the body later unless curative steps are taken. This is going to be one of the greatest uses of aura therapy in later years. A speckled, flashing red from the jaws indicates toothache. A dull brown, pulsing in time from the nimbus indicates fright at the thought of a visit to a dentist. Scarlet is usually worn by those who are too sure of themselves. It indicates that a person is altogether too fond of himself. It is the color of false pride, pride without a foundation. But scarlet also shows most clearly around the hips of those ladies who sell love for coins of the realm. They are indeed scarlet women. Such women are usually not at all interested in the sex act as such. To them it is merely a means of earning a living. So the over-conceited person and the prostitute share the same colors in the aura. It is worth a thought that these old sayings such as scarlet woman, blue mood, red rage, black with temper, green with envy, do indeed accurately indicate the aura of a person afflicted with such a mood. The people who originated such sayings obviously, consciously or unconsciously, saw the aura. Still on with the red group, pink, it is more of a coral really, shows immaturity. Teenagers show pink instead of any other red. In the case of an adult, pink is an indicator of childishness and insecurity. A red-brown, something like raw liver, indicates a very nasty person indeed, one who should be avoided, for he will bring trouble. When seen over an organ, it shows that the organ is very diseased indeed, and the person who has such a color over a vital organ will soon die. All people with red showing at the end of the breastbone, or end of the sternum, have nerve trouble. They should learn to control their activities and live more sedately if they want to live long and happily. Orange. Orange is really a branch of red, but we are paying it the compliment of giving it a classification of its own, because some religions of the Far East used to regard orange as the color of the sun and paid homage to it. That is why there are so many orange colors in the Far East. On the other hand, just to show the two sides of the coin, yet other religions held the belief that blue was the color of the sun. It does not matter to which opinion you subscribe, orange is basically a good color, and people with a suitable shade of orange in their aura are those who show much consideration for other people. They are humanitarians, people who do their best to help others not so fortunately endowed. A yellow orange is to be desired because it shows self-control and has many virtues. Brownish orange indicates a repressed, lazy person who couldn't care less. A brownish orange also indicates kidney trouble. If it is located over the kidneys and has a jagged gray blur in it, it shows the presence of kidney stones. An orange which is tinged with green indicates a person who loves to quarrel just for the sake of quarreling. And when you progress to the point when you can see the shades within the shades within the colors, then be wise and avoid arguing with those who have a green amid the orange, because they can see only black and white. They lack imagination. They lack the perception and the discernment to realize that there are shades of knowledge, shades of opinions, and shades of color. The person afflicted with the greenish orange argues endlessly just for the sake of argument, and without really caring whether his arguments are right or wrong. To such people, the argument is the thing. Yellow. A golden yellow indicates that its possessor is of a very spiritual nature. All the great saints had golden halos around their heads. The greater the spirituality, the brighter glowed the golden yellow. To digress, let us state here that those of the very highest spirituality also have indigo, but we are dealing with yellow. Those who have a yellow in the aura always are in good spiritual and moral health. They are well upon the path, and, according to the exact shade of yellow, they have little of which to be afraid. A person with a bright yellow in the aura can be completely trusted. A person with a degraded yellow, like the color of bad cheddar cheese, is of a cowardly nature, and that is why people say, "Oh, he is yellow." It used to be far more common that one could see the aura, and presumably most of these sayings came into the different languages at that time. But a bad yellow shows a bad person, one who is really frightened of everything. A reddish yellow is not at all favorable because it indicates mental, moral, and physical timidity, and with its absolute weakness of spiritual outlook and conviction. People with a reddish yellow will change from one religion to another, always seeking for something which is not obtainable in 5 minutes. They lack staying power. They cannot stick to a thing more than a few moments. A person who has a red yellow and brown red in the aura is always chasing after the opposite sex and getting nowhere. It is noteworthy that if a person has red hair or ginger hair and has red yellow in the aura, that person will be very pugnacious, very offensive, and very ready to misconstrue any remark into a personal slight. This refers particularly to those who have red hair and reddish, perhaps freckled, skin. Some of the redder yellows indicate that the person possessing these shades has a great inferiority complex. The redder the red in the yellow, the greater the degree of inferiority. A brownish yellow shows very impure thoughts indeed, and poor spiritual development. Presumably, most people know about Skid Row, the vale to which all drunks, deadbeats, and derelicts eventually drift on this earth. Many of the people in that class or condition have this red, brown, yellow, and if they are particularly bad, they have an unpleasant form of lime green speckling the aura. These people can rarely be saved from their own folly. A brownish yellow indicates impure thoughts, and that the person concerned does not always keep in the straight and narrow path. In the health line, a green yellow shows liver complaints. As the greenish yellow turns to brownish reddish yellow, it shows that the complaints are more in the nature of social diseases. A person with a social disease invariably has a dark brown, dark yellow band around the hips. It is often speckled with what looks like red dust. With the brown becoming more and more pronounced in the yellow, and perhaps showing jagged bands, it indicates mental afflictions. A person who is a dual personality, in the psychiatric sense, will often show one half of the aura as a bluish yellow and the other half as a brownish or greenish yellow. It is a thoroughly unpleasant combination. The pure golden yellow with which we commence this heading of yellow should always be cultivated. It can be attained by keeping one's thoughts and one's intentions pure. Every one of us has to go along through the brighter yellow before we get far along the path of evolution. Green. Green is the color of healing, the color of teaching, and the color of physical growth. Great doctors and surgeons have a lot of green in their aura. They also have a lot of red, and curiously enough, the two colors blend most harmoniously, and there is no discord between them. Red and green, when seen together in materials, often clash and offend, but when they are seen in the aura, they please. Green with a suitable red indicates a brilliant surgeon, a most competent man. Green alone, without the red, indicates a most eminent physician, one who knows his job, or it might indicate a nurse whose vocation is both her career and her love. Green mixed with a suitable blue indicates their auras and bands, or striations, of swirling blue, a form of electric blue, and often between the blue and green there would be narrow bands of golden yellow, which would indicate that the teacher was one who had the welfare of his students at heart, and had the necessary high spiritual perceptions in order to teach the best subjects. All those who are concerned with the health of people and animals have much green in their auric makeup. They may not be high-ranking surgeons or physicians, but all people, no matter who they are, and if they are dealing with health, either of animals or humans or plants, they all have a certain amount of green in their aura. It seems to be almost their badge of office. Green is not a dominant color, though. It is nearly always subservient to some other color. It is a helpful color and indicates that one who has much green in the aura is of a friendly, compassionate, considerate nature. If the person has a yellowish green, however, then that person cannot be trusted. But the more the mixture of unpleasant yellow to unpleasant green, the more untrustworthy, the more unreliable the person. Confidence tricksters have a yellow-green. the type of people who talk nicely to a person and then swindle them out of their money. These have a sort of lime green to which their yellow is added. As the green turns to blue, usually a pleasant sky blue or electric blue, the more trustworthy a person is. Blue. This color is often referred to as the color of the spirit world. It also shows intellectual ability as apart from spirituality, but of course it has to be of the right shade of blue. With the right shade, it is a very favorable color indeed. The etheric is of a bluish tinge, a blue somewhat similar to non-inhaled cigarette smoke, or the blue of a wood fire. The brighter the blue, the healthier and the more vigorous in health is the person. Pale blue is the color of a person who vacillates a lot, a person who cannot make up his mind, a person who has to be pushed in order to get any worthwhile decision from him. A darker blue is that of a person who is making progress, a person who is trying. If the blue is darker still, it shows one who is keen on the tasks of life and who has found some satisfaction in it. These darker blues are often found in missionaries who are missionaries because they have definitely had a call. It is not found in missionaries who just desire a job, perhaps traveling around the world with all expenses paid. One can always judge of a person by the vigor of the yellow and the darkness of the blue. Indigo. We are going to class indigo and violet as being under the same heading because one shades imperceptibly into the other, and it is very much a case of one being quite dependent upon the other. People with indigo, showing to a marked extent in their aura, are people of deep religious convictions, not merely those who profess to be religious. There is a great deal of difference. Some people say that they are religious. Some people believe they are religious. But until one can actually see the aura, one cannot say for sure. Indigo proves it conclusively. If a person has a pinkish tinge in the indigo, the possessor of such a marked aura will be touchy and unpleasant, particularly to those who are under the control of the afflicted person. The pinkish tinge in the indigo is a degrading touch. It robs the aura of its purity. Incidentally, people with indigo or violet or purple in their auras suffer from heart trouble and stomach disorders. They are the type of people who should have no fried food and very little fat food. Gray. Gray is a modifier of the colors of the aura. It does not signify anything of itself unless the person is most unevolved. If the person at whom you are looking at is unevolved, then there would be great bands and splotches of gray, but you normally would not be looking at the nude body of an unevolved person. Gray in a color shows a weakness of character and a general poorness of health. If a person has gray bands over a particular organ, it shows that the organ is in danger of breaking down, or is breaking down, and medical attention should be sought immediately. A person with a dull throbbing headache will have a gray, smoky cloud going through the halo or nimbus, and no matter what the color the halo, Gray bands going through it will pulsate in time with the throb of the headache. End of Lesson 5. You Forever by Tuesday Lobsang Rampa. Read to you by BlueFriend. This is Lesson 6. By now it will be obvious that everything that is a vibration. Thus, throughout the whole of existence, there is what one could term a gigantic keyboard consisting of all the vibrations which can ever be. Let us imagine that it is the keyboard of an immense piano stretching for limitless miles. Let us imagine, if you like, that we are ants and we can see just a very few of the notes. The vibrations will correspond to the different keys of the piano. One note or key would cover the vibrations which we term touch. The vibration which is so slow, so solid, that we feel it rather than hear it or see it. The next note will be sound. That is, the note will cover those vibrations which activate the mechanism within our ears. We may not feel with our fingers those vibrations, but our ears tell us that there is sound. We cannot hear a thing which can be felt, nor can we feel a thing which can be heard. So we have covered 2 notes on our piano keyboard. The next will be sight. Here again we have a vibration of such a frequency, that is, it is vibrating so rapidly that we cannot feel it and we cannot hear it, but it affects our eyes and we call it sight. Interpenetrating these 3 notes, there are a very few others, such as that frequency or band of frequencies, which we call radio. A note higher, and we get telepathy, clairvoyance, and kindred manifestations or powers. But the whole point is that of the truly immense range of frequencies or vibrations. Man can perceive only a very, very limited range. Sight and sound are closely related, however. We can have a color and say that it has a musical note because there are certain electronic instruments which have been made which will play a particular note if a color is put under the scanner. If you find that difficult to understand, consider this. Radio waves, that is, music, speech, and even pictures, are about us at all times. They are with us in the house, wherever we go, whatever we do. We, unaided, cannot hear those radio waves, but if we have a special device, which we call a radio, which slows down the waves, or, if you like, converts the radio frequencies into audio frequencies, then we can hear the radio program originally broadcast, or see the television pictures. In much the same way, we can take a sound and say there is a color to fit it, or we can have a color and say that that particular color has a musical note. This, of course, is well known in the East, and we consider that it does actually increase one's appreciation of art, for example, if one can look at a painting and imagine the chord which would be the result of those colors if it were made into music. Everyone will, of course, be aware that Mars is also known as the red planet. Mars is the planet of red, and red of a certain shade, the basic red, has a musical note which corresponds to Do. Orange, which is a part of red, corresponds to the note re. Some religious beliefs state that orange is the color of the sun, while other religions are of the opinion that blue should be the sun's color. We prefer to state that we hold orange to be the sun's color. Yellow corresponds to me, and the planet Mercury is the ruler of yellow. All of this, of course, goes back into ancient Eastern mythology. Just as the Greeks had their gods and goddesses who raced across the skies in flaming chariots, so the people of the East had their myths and their legends, but they invested the planets with color and said that such and such a color was ruled by such and such a planet. Green has a musical note corresponding to fa. It is a color of growth, and it is stated by some people that plants can be stimulated by suitable notes of music. While we have no personal experience of this particular item, we have had information about it from an absolutely reliable source. Saturn is the planet controlling the color green. It may be of interest to state that the ancients derived these colors from the sensations they received as they contemplated a certain planet when they were meditating. Many of the ancients meditated on the highest parts of the earth, in the high peaks of the Himalayas, for example, and when one is 15,000 feet or so above the surface of the earth, quite a considerable amount of air is left behind, and the planets can be seen more clearly. Perceptions are more acute. Thus, the sages of old laid down the rules about the colors of the planets. Blue has the note of so. As we mentioned previously, some religions regard blue as the color of the sun, but we are working in the Eastern tradition, and we are going to take the assumption that blue is covered by the planet Jupiter. Indigo is la on the musical scale, and in the East it is said to be ruled by Venus. When favorably aspected, that is, when conferring benefits upon a person, Venus gives artistic ability and purity of thought. It gives the better type of character. It is only when it is connected with lower vibration people that Venus leads to various excesses. Violet corresponds to the musical note of T and is ruled by the moon. Here again, if we have a well-aspected person, the moon, or violet, gives clarity of thought, spirituality, and controlled imagination. But if the aspects are poor, then of course there are mental disturbances or even lunacy. Outside the aura there is a sheath which completely encloses the human body, the etheric, and the aura itself. It is as if the whole assembly of the human entity, with the human body at the center, and then the etheric and the aura, is all encased in a bag. Imagine it like this. We have an ordinary hen's egg. Inside there is the yolk, corresponding to the human body, the physical body, that is. Beyond the yolk we have the white of the egg, which we will say represents the etheric and the aura. But then, outside the white of the egg, between the white and the shell, there is a very thin skin. Quite a tough skin it is, too. When you boil an egg and you get rid of the shell, you can peel off this skin. The human assembly is like that. It is all encased in this skin-like covering. This skin is completely transparent, and under the impact of swirls or tremors in the aura, it undulates somewhat, but it always tries to regain its egg shape, something similar to a balloon, always trying to regain its shape because the pressure within is greater than the pressure without. You will be able to visualize it more if you imagine the body, the etheric, and the aura contained within an exceedingly thin cellophane bag of oval shape. As one thinks, one projects from the brain through the etheric, through the aura, and onto the auric skin. Here, upon the outer surface of that covering, one gets pictures of the thoughts. As in so many other instances, this is another example corresponding to radio or television. In the neck of a television tube there is what is known as an electron gun, which shoots fast-moving electrons onto a fluorescent screen, which is the viewing screen, the part at which you gaze. As the electrons impinge upon a special coating inside the television screen, the thing fluoresces. That is, there is a point of light which persists for a time so that the eyes can carry over, by residual memory, the picture of where the point of light was. So eventually the human eye sees the whole picture on the television screen. As the picture at the transmitter varies, so does the picture that you see on the television screen vary. In much the same way, thoughts go from our transmitter, that is, our brain, and reach the sheath covering the aura. Here the thoughts seem to impinge and form pictures which a clairvoyant can see. But we see not merely the picture of present thoughts, we can also see what has been. It is easily possible for an adept to look at a person and to actually see on the outer covering of the aura some of the things that the subject has done during the past 2 or 3 lives. It may sound fantastic to the uninitiated, but nevertheless it is perfectly correct. Matter cannot be destroyed. Everything that is still exists. If you make a sound, the vibration of that sound, the energy which it causes, goes on forever. If, for instance, you could go from this earth quite instantly to a far, far planet, you would see, provided you had suitable instruments, pictures which happened thousands and thousands of years before. Light has a definite speed, and light does not fade, so that if you got sufficiently distant from the earth instantly, you would be able to see the creation of the earth. But this is taking us away from the subject under discussion. We want to make the point that the subconscious, not being controlled by the conscious, can project pictures of things beyond the present reach of the conscious. And so a person with good powers of clairvoyance can easily see what manner of person faces him. This is an advanced form of psychometry. It is what one might term visual psychometry, and we will deal with psychometry later. Everyone with any perception or sensitivity at all can sense an aura, even when they do not actually see it. How many times have you been instantly attracted or instantly repelled by a person when you've not even spoken to him? Unconscious perception of the aura explains one's likes and dislikes. All people used to be able to see the aura, but through abuses of various kinds, they lost the power. During the next few centuries, people are going to once again be able to do telepathy and clairvoyance, etc. Let us go further into the matter of likes and dislikes. Every aura is composed of many colors and many striations of color. It is necessary that the colors and striations match each other before two people can be compatible. It is often the case that a husband and wife will be very compatible in one or two directions and completely incompatible in others. That's because the particular waveform of one aura only touches the waveform of the partner's aura at certain definite points, and on those points there is complete agreement and complete compatibility. We say, for instance, that two people are poles apart, and that is definitely the case when they are incompatible. If you prefer, you can take it that people who are compatible have auric colors which blend and harmonize, whereas those who are incompatible have colors which clash and would be really painful to look upon. People come of certain types. They are of common frequencies. People of a common type go about in a body. You may get a whole herd of girls going about together, or a whole group of young men lounging on street corners or forming gangs. That's because all these people are of a common frequency or common type of aura. They depend upon each other. They have a magnetic attraction for each other, and the strongest person in the group will dominate the whole and influence them for good or bad. Young people should be trained by discipline and by self-discipline to control their more elementary impulses in order that the race as a whole may be improved. As already stated, a human is centered within the egg-shape covering centered within the aura, and that is the normal position for most people, the average healthy person. When a person has a mental illness, he or she is not properly centered. Many people have said, "I feel out of myself today." That may well be the case. A person may be projecting at an angle inside the oval. People who are of dual personality are completely different from the average. They may have half the aura of one color and half of a completely different color pattern. They may, if their dual personality is marked, have an aura which is not just one egg shape, but has two eggs joined together at an angle to each other. Mental illness should not be treated so lightly. Shock treatment can be a very dangerous thing because it can drive the astral, we shall deal with this subject later, straight out of the body. But in the main, shock treatment is designed, consciously or unconsciously, to shock the two eggs into one. Often it just burns out neural patterns in the brain. We are born with certain potentialities, certain limits as to the coloring of our auras, the frequency of our vibrations, and other things, and it is thus possible for a determined, well-intentioned person to alter his or her aura for the better. Sadly, it is much easier to alter it for the worse. Socrates, to take one example, knew that he would be a good murderer, but he was not going to give in to the blows of fate, and so he took steps to alter his path through life. Instead of becoming a murderer, Socrates became the wisest man of his age. All of us can, if we want to, raise our thoughts to a higher level and so help our auras. A person with a brown muddy colored red in the aura, which shows excessive sexuality, can increase the rate of vibration of the red by sublimating the sexual desires, and then he will become one with much constructive drive, one who makes his way through life. The aura vanishes soon after death, but the etheric may continue for quite a long time. It depends upon the state of health of its former possessor. The etheric can become the mindless ghost which carries out senseless hauntings. Many people in the country districts have seen a form of bluish glow over the graves of those who have just been interred. This glow is particularly noticeable by night. This, of course, is merely the etheric dissipating away from the decomposing body. In the aura, low vibrations give dull, muddy colors, colors which nauseate rather than attract. The higher one's vibrations become, the purer and the more brilliant become the colors of the aura. Brilliant not in a garish way, but in the best, the most spiritual way. One can only say that pure colors are delightful, while muddy colors are distasteful. A good deed brightens one's outlook by brightening one's auric colors. A bad deed makes us feel blue or puts us in a black mood. Good deeds, helping others, make us see the world through rose-tinted spectacles. It is necessary to keep constantly in mind that the color is the main indicator of a person's potentialities. Colors change, of course, with one's moods, but the basic colors do not change unless the person improves or deteriorates the character. You may take it that the basic colors remain the same, but the transient colors fluctuate and vary according to the mood. When you are looking at the color of a person's aura, you should ask, what is the color? Is it clear or muddy? How plainly can I see through it? Does it swirl over certain areas, or is it located almost permanently over one spot? Is it a continuous band of color holding its shape and its form, or does it fluctuate and have sharp peaks and deep valleys? We must also make sure that we are not prejudging a person, because it is a very simple matter to look at an aura and imagine that we see a muddy color, when actually it's not muddy at all. It may be our own wrong thoughts which make a color appear muddy, for, remember, in looking at any other person's aura, we first have to look through our own aura. There is a connection between musical and mental rhythms. The human brain is a mass of vibration with electrical impulses radiating from every part of it. A human emits a musical note depending upon the rate of vibration of that human. Just as one could get near a beehive and hear the drone of a whole lot of bees, so perhaps could some other creature hear humans. Every human has his or her own basic note, which is constantly emitted in much the same way as a telephone wire emits a note in a wind. Further, popular music is such that it is in sympathy with the brainwave formation. It is in sympathy with the harmonic of the body vibration. You may get a hit tune which sets everyone humming it and whistling it, People say that they have such and such a tune running constantly through their head. Hit tunes are ones which key in to the human brain waves for a certain time before their basic energy is dissipated. Classical music is of a more permanent nature. It is music which causes our auditory waveform to vibrate pleasantly in sympathy with the classical music. If the leaders of a nation want to rouse up their followers, they have to compose, or have composed, a special form of music called a national anthem. One hears the national anthem, and one gets filled with all sorts of emotions. Then one stands upright and thinks kindly of the country, or thinks fierce thoughts of other countries. That is merely because the vibrations, which we call sound, have caused our mental vibrations to react in a certain way. Thus it is possible to pre-order certain reactions in a human being by playing certain types of music to that person. A deep-thinking person, one who has high peaks and deep hollows to his brainwave form, likes music of the same type. That is, music having high peaks and a deep wave form. But a scatterbrain person prefers the scatterbrain music, music that is more or less a jingle-jangle, and on a chart would be represented more or less accurately by just a squiggle. Many of the greatest musicians are those who consciously or subconsciously can do astral traveling, and who go to the realms beyond death. They hear the music of the spheres. Being musicians, this heavenly music makes a vast impression upon them. It sticks in their memory, so that when they come back to earth, they are immediately in a composing mood. They rush to a musical instrument or to lined paper and immediately write down, so far as they remember, the notations of the music which they heard in the astral. Then they say, remembering no better, that they have composed this or that work. The diabolic system of subliminal advertising, in which an advertising message is flashed on the television screen too quick for the conscious eye to see, plays upon one's semi-awareness while not impinging upon the conscious perceptions. The subconscious is jerked to awareness by the flow of wave patterns reaching it, and the subconscious, being 9/10 of the whole, eventually drives the consciousness to go out and purchase the item which was advertised, even though consciously the person concerned knows that he or she does not even desire such a thing. An unscrupulous group of people, such as the leaders of a country who had not the welfare of people at heart, could actually make the people react to any subliminal commands by using this form of advertising. End of Lesson 6.